I woke up to strange sounds coming from my basement around 3 a.m. I thought it was a raccoon until I saw the flicker of a flashlight and heard the unmistakable creak of the old basement door, but when I rushed down with my phone camera ready, it wasn't a raccoon. It was Karen, our HO president, crouched behind my water heater wearing all black and holding a clipboard, and what she said when I confronted her made my blood boil. She screamed that I was the one spying on her and that she was gathering evidence to protect the neighborhood from me. I had no idea this was only the beginning of her insane plan. He stood there frozen, not because I was scared of Karen, but because I was stunned that this woman had actually broken into my home in the middle of the night and was now trying to spin it like I was the one in the wrong. She kept ranting, saying she had reason to believe I had hidden surveillance equipment that violated HO privacy guidelines. I told her she had 10 seconds to leave before I called the police, but she just kept yelling about secret cameras and neighborhood safety. I finally pulled out my phone and started recording her. That was the moment her expression changed. She tried to grab at my phone, screaming that what I was doing was illegal, that she had authority from the HO board to investigate complaints. I backed away and asked her who on the board authorized breaking and entering. She paused, looked cornered, and then tried to claim the basement was actually shared space because it extended under the property line. The logic was absurd, and even she knew it, but she doubled down, insisting she had rights because my house was in a limited covenant zone. Whatever that meant. I had lived here for 10 years and never heard anything about that. I finally got her out of my house, but not before filming her walking up my basement stairs and out the back door. I posted the video in our private neighborhood forum, not to shame her, but to protect myself. Within hours, the post exploded. Neighbors were furious. Some demanded answers from Karen. Others accused me of faking it. Karen responded by calling an emergency HO board meeting and shockingly tried to have me censured, claiming I had violated neighborhood security by recording her without permission and that my video surveillance system posed a danger to the privacy of every family in the subdivision. She twisted the story completely and somehow convinced 2 board members to side with her. They sent me a letter accusing me of misconduct and said they would be voting on a possible fine and restriction of my property rights, including forced removal of my cameras and a warning about violating the community covenant. Karen was no longer just annoying now. She was dangerous. She was trying to ruin my reputation and my legal rights as a homeowner, all because I caught her in my basement in the middle of the night and refused to back down after the fake charges from the HO board came in. I got angry, not scared. I knew Karen was lying and I needed real proof to shut her down for good. So I pulled the last 30 days of my security footage and went through it night by night, hour by hour, and what I found shocked me. It wasn't the first time she had been on my property. In fact, I caught her creeping around my backyard on 3 different nights, always between 2 and 4 a.m., and always dressed in black. One time she even brought a flashlight and walked along the side of my house near my bedroom window. I was furious. She had been snooping around my property like a criminal while pretending to be a law-abiding HO president. During the day, I compiled all the clips and created a folder titled Karen's Crime Tours. I backed up everything to the cloud and sent copies to a few trusted neighbors, including one who was a retired sheriff. He told me flat out this was trespassing and borderline stalking, and that if she entered my house again without permission, it would be considered a felony. But before I could take legal action, Karen made her next move. She filed an official complaint saying she felt unsafe and accused me of installing hidden microphones to spy on the HO meetings and guests. What the board actually scheduled a hearing to review her claim, asterisk. The day of the HO hearing came, and honestly I expected to be ambushed. Karen had already poisoned half the board, and her friends were whispering nonsense about me setting up surveillance traps and violating homeowner privacy. But when I arrived, something surprising happened. A few neighbors I hadn't even spoken to in weeks were waiting outside the clubhouse. They had seen the video of Karen sneaking out of my basement, and then they saw the rest, the footage of her walking around my yard at night. A neighbor named Sandra, who used to be neutral, stood up in front of the board and said that she was terrified after seeing what Karen had done. She said if Karen could do that to me, she could do it to anyone, and that the real danger to the community wasn't my cameras, it was a president abusing her power. Then another board member named Keith, who had stayed quiet during all this, stood up and dropped a bombshell. He said Karen had personally asked him weeks ago to approve funding for a new HOHL security patrol, and that she mentioned, quote, targeting a few rule breakers, including me. He refused, and she got angry, and ever since then, she had been pushing for more authority over homeowner property violations. Now, it was clear she had an agenda, and it wasn't about safety or privacy. It was about control. Karen's face turned red, and she shouted that. Everyone was ganging up on her, but it was too late. Room was turning against her, and for the first time she looked nervous, like the power was slipping from her fingers. After getting exposed at the board hearing, Karen didn't back down. She just got sneakier. I knew she was going to try something. Desperate, so I left my security system running and added 2 new hidden cameras, one in the backyard and one in the garage. And it's a good thing I did, because just 3 nights. Later she struck again, this time at 1:37 a.m. Karen snuck into my yard carrying a small toolbox in what looked like wire cutters. She walked straight to the side of my house and tried to tamper with the security box, where the camera wires ran. She was trying to disable my system. I couldn't believe it. Not only was she trespassing again, she was committing vandalism. And this time, it was all caught and crystal clear. Night vision video? I called the police and gave them the footage. Within 15 minutes, they were at her door, and from what I heard, she tried to claim she was just checking for a gas leak, even though she had no equipment, no call, and no authority. The officers didn't buy it. They didn't arrest her right there, but they filed an official report and warned her that the next incident would result in criminal charges. The best part was that word got out fast. Neighbors started talking, and the video spread privately through our community forum. Everyone was shocked that the woman who claimed to care so much about safety was literally sneaking around people's yards with tools at night. The O board held another emergency meeting, but this time it wasn't about me. It was about her. And her removal as president was finally on the agenda. Asterisk. The clubhouse was packed for the emergency. Ho vote. Everyone knew what it was about. The air was tense, and for the first time, Karen didn't walk in with her usual smug expression. She looked rattled. She took her seat at the front of the room, flanked by 2 of her loyal board members, but everyone else had turned against her. Asterisk. Even neighbors who had never spoken up before were sitting in rows watching silently when the meeting opened. Keith, the same board member who exposed her earlier, stood up and read a motion to vote on her immediate removal, citing abuse of power, trespassing, attempted vandalism, and conduct unbecoming of an HOA officer. Karen tried to interrupt, claiming the footage was misleading, that she was framed, and that she had only been investigating suspicious activity. She even pointed at me and accused me of orchestrating a smear campaign to take control of the board. People started murmuring and shaking their heads. One elderly woman from across the street raised her hand and calmly asked Karen how she explained being in my yard with wire cutters at 1 a.m. Karen didn't have an answer. She just froze and stammered, and then, in the most dramatic moment of the night, she stood up, slammed her papers down, and screamed that we were all ungrateful and didn't deserve the order she brought to the neighborhood. Then she stormed out before the vote even happened. It didn't matter, though. The board still held the vote, and it was nearly unanimous, 15 in favor, 1 abstained, and Karen was officially removed as HOA president. She didn't even stay to hear it. She just vanished into the night like she had the other nights, only this time everyone saw it, and no one was defending her anymore. After Karen was removed from the HOA, everything changed. The tension in the neighborhood eased. Overnight, neighbors started talking to each other again. People were putting out lawn decor without fear of fines, and the constant complaints in violation notices just stopped. It felt like we had all been holding our breath for years and finally let it out peacefully. I finally took some time to clean up my basement, the same basement where this all started, and that's when I found something weird tucked behind the water heater, exactly where Karen had crouched. That night was a small sealed envelope with my name on it. Inside was a printed photo of my backyard taken at night from an angle. No one but someone standing inside my property could have taken. On the back was a note that said, "You think you're smarter, but some of us are always watching." I was stunned. It wasn't signed, but it was clear who it came from. Part of me was angry, part of me was disturbed, but mostly I felt relieved that she was finally gone. The board later discovered that Karen had been misusing HOA funds to pay for bogus security patrols, and pushing contracts to companies owned by her cousin. The real reason she was in my basement was because she thought I had proof of her fraud, and in the end, she was right. The videos, the pressure, and her own paranoia brought her down. I didn't need to frame her. She exposed herself. All I did was stay calm, document everything, and let the truth speak louder than her lies. Now the neighborhood's better, the board is fair, and as for me, I installed better locks, kept the cameras up, and every once in a while when the wind rattles the basement door, I smile, knowing that Karen's not there anymore.